You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Force 13 is live covering the latest on Typhoon Kammuri, which has intensified substantially over the course of today. Now has estimated winds on satellite of 150 miles per hour and a pressure of 938 millibars. That would make it a super typhoon, and with winds in kilometers per hour of around 240. It is closing in on landfall this evening. Local time, it's just past 9 p.m. in the Philippines, and as you can see on the screen here, this is the latest satellite imagery, which is pretty much almost up to the minute, with the eye quite clear on that satellite imagery, even though it's on the infrared channel now, and landfall expected not in not too distant future. It is just offshore right now. Not sure on just how many miles, but it won't be that far at all. Indeed, the edge of the eye is starting to reach the southeastern tip of Luzon. And what we were talking about at length last night, or early this morning local time on the stream, was that the storm had moved south of forecast, and that continues today. This evening it will move south of Catanduanes, and by the looks of things we'll be looking at a landfall very close to Legazpi, which we were speaking about yesterday, and there it is at the bottom of your screen as well. Expected rainfall there, 500 millimeters, along with 99% chance of tropical storm force winds. Well, there's not a team here with us at this moment, so we're just going to be monitoring this storm together, the viewers and myself, and send in any messages and questions that you may have on the stream live. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. And that will tag me, and I'll be able to take a look at the questions. So this storm has intensified a lot in the last few hours. Let me see if we can get the infrared up. Is this the right one? It is. This is how the storm has progressed since earlier today, and you can see how the eye has come out a lot more. It's certainly grown, and the cloud tops extending around it right into the minus 70s, even minus 80s in degrees Celsius, although there are still one or two fractures in that eye wall. The eye temperature itself is in around the region of around plus 10 degrees Celsius, or maybe a little bit less, which is certainly justifiable for 150 miles per hour at this point. You can see its movement over that last what time period we're looking at, the 4-hour period, and how it's been still sauntering towards the west, due west, as Devon said it would last night. Indeed, even parts of the northern tip of Samar there could possibly be getting the southern extremity of Kammuri's eye. The international name is Kammuri. The local name in the Philippines is Tisoy. So this is live coverage on the storm up until its landfall, which we expect will happen in, well, looking at this imagery, probably 2 hours' time. Maybe a little bit less than that, and in the meantime we'll take any questions that you've got. Just for a moment though, I will have to edit the title of this video, so that will take me one quick moment here. Alright, there have been a few questions so far on whether it will become a Category 5 storm. That is a very good question at this point. Stranger things have happened, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't rule that out, although I don't think it will happen at this stage. It is a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. The JTWC running with winds of 130 miles per hour, 130. That's around, that is around 200 kilometers per hour or thereabouts. And the estimated pressure in the storm right now on our analysis is 938 millibars. Let's see if we can take a look at the latest warnings from Pegasa. These are Signal 3 warnings from their website for Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, Camarines Nort, Masbate, including Ticao and Burias Islands, Romblon, and the southern portion of Quezon, and lots of places listed there. And the southern part of Batangas, and lots of towns and cities also listed on the screen there as well. In the Visayas region, northern Samar, northern portion of eastern Samar as well, and the northern portion of Samar. That is quite confusing. You've got northern Samar and the northern portion of Samar. Signal 2 warnings are in effect for large parts of Luzon, including Metro Manila, and all of those places listed below it as well, extending up to Pangasinan as well, and some inland locations too. The rest of Samar in the Visayas region, and lots of other locations there as well. Mainly parts of the northern Visayas, and Signal 1 warnings for all the way up to southern Isabela at this point, and the northern portion of Palawan too, under a Signal 1 warning. Large parts of the Visayas region under Signal 1, Cebu, northern Cebu is under Signal 2. Most of Leyte Signal 1, but the northern part is Signal 2, and in Mindanao, the Dinagat Islands and Siargao Island under Signal 1 as well. So that is a roundup of the warnings at this time as we continue to watch Typhoon Kammuri approaching land. This is pretty much the very latest imagery that we've got on the screen at this moment in time, and this goes up to 12:27 UTC, which is 40 minutes ago. We would have more up-to-date imagery on visible, but obviously it is long past sunset, so there is no visible imagery of the storm at this point. So for tonight, and pretty much we expect until landfall, this is the best that we'll have. Alright, let's see if we've got any more questions first, and there have been a few. Is there any time left for Kammuri to intensify, even between some of the islands? Well, this has happened before. We've compared, well, I personally compared this potentially to a larger Melor last night, and it is taking a track not too dissimilar from Melor, and we know that that one re-intensified over the waters in between Luzon and the Visayas region. I'm sure it has a name, I forget it by now. And if this storm does track sufficiently south enough to get a good amount of water underneath it, then maybe there is another little window there for intensification. At this moment, though, I don't foresee that we'll have any intensification further than what we've already seen. This is, according to our estimates, a 150 mile per hour super typhoon. That's 240 kilometers per hour sustained winds with higher gusts. And the JTWC running with 130 miles per hour, which is just something over 200 kilometers per hour, if I'm not mistaken. You'll also see at the bottom of the screen all of the locations going by in parts of Luzon and as far south as the southern Visayas region. Look out for your location. It sweeps from north to south. Alright, more questions for Manila's future storm conditions. So, Manila has about an 80% chance of receiving tropical storm force winds. So that's pretty likely that there will be those conditions, and it should come up just next at the bottom of our screen there. 79% according to the latest estimates, and expected rainfall amounts of 200 millimeters. So there is that potential, especially given the size of this storm's cloud tops, particularly on, well, all sides away from the eye, and it will extend as far as Manila. So when the center of the storm passes close, you will probably get minus 80 cloud tops above you, which probably means torrential rainfall sustained for a few hours. and that will occur on all sides of the storm's eye by the looks of things. There is one notable fracture that is working its way around the storm. That appears to be on the southern side right now, so if anywhere is getting a bit of a break, it's the northern tip of Samar at this particular moment. And also a question about Clark, which is somewhere that I haven't actually heard of, so I'm going to have to take a look and see for myself where that one is. I don't recall hearing that before, but if anyone else can help me with that, that would be very appreciative. But all I can say at this point, because there's too many Clarks to look for elsewhere in the world, all I can say is at this point the southern part of Luzon will get the worst conditions, and indeed the northernmost Visayas region possibly. Mindoro could indeed get some significant conditions from this storm as well. That is one of the places earmarked for a potential landfall. Same too is Marinduque, a small island south of Luzon. That is another place with a potential landfall to its name. And also for Burias Island, north of Masbate, that could also get a storm landfall, the centre of the eye, and of course the southeastern tip of Luzon. Albay and Sorsogon in particular could get, well, probably will get the landfall, maybe somewhere along the dividing line between the two, and that should occur probably in around 2 hours from now. Let's see if we can get some more questions. All right, Pampanga was what we were referring to there. So that is further towards the north. I always get confused with some of these places. Yes, so that is to the northwest of Manila, of course. And we had somewhere similar to that last night in the stream when we were talking about it. And at the moment, we're looking at somewhere around 70% chance of tropical storm force winds there, and substantial rainfall amounts, 100 to 150 millimeters of rain expected in that region, and that will occur mainly tomorrow afternoon and evening. And if you have any other location questions, we'll do our best there. Will Kammuri affect any non-Philippine land? A decent question, but it's pretty much assured that no areas outside the Philippines are going to be affected. We'll just hop on to the JTWC's latest warning graphic to show you what they're saying with the forecast right now. So they're running, this was the 9 a.m. UTC forecast, so it still shows it as a category 3 there, a little bit out of date, but shows you the long-term track pretty well. You can see there the second sort of purplish dot there, that's the forecast. That is looking at 6 UTC tomorrow morning. That's the closest one to Manila. Local time in the Philippines, that will be about, time zones, about, trying to figure this out, 2 p.m. Philippine time on Tuesday. So that's where that dot is, passing right between Mindoro and the southern part of Luzon, and then continuing towards the northwest. By that point, it's still with winds of 110 miles per hour, according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. I think it could actually still be stronger by that point, depending on what exactly happens after this first landfall. Further, the JTWC also maintains the storm as a typhoon until midway through Wednesday, when it moves out into the South China Sea, and then it will take a big nosedive towards the southwest and rapidly weaken and dissipate. I think I saw earlier in the comments someone still mentioning Davao. Well, you can even see on here that it's outside of the JTWC's enormous cone of uncertainty, so I think we're pretty clear in the clear there in Davao. Let's see if we have any more questions. Any chance of Cavite and Laguna getting typhoon strength conditions? Well, of course, if the storm moves further north than forecast, yes, but as it stands right now, the answer would be no. Typhoon conditions will probably only be felt on the southern coastlines of Luzon, in the Manila region, south of there, Batangas, probably only 10 or 20 miles, well, maybe a little bit more inland, maybe up to 50 kilometers. There we go. What's also interesting to note on this is that the northern wind field is expected to be much larger than the southern wind field. So it is quite evenly spread at the forecast at the observed time. But interestingly, the JTWC expect that wind field on the northern side to grow and on the southern side to shrink drastically, really. What it does say, though, is that Manila and the highly populated parts of Luzon will get most likely tropical storm force winds. That's the JTWC. Just take a look at the JMA as well. This page hasn't been loaded yet, so just get the update on that. Here is the latest from the Japanese Meteorological Agency. They're saying something pretty similar as well. Their current central pressure is 950 millibars with 10-minute sustained winds of 85 knots. So that would be 1 minute sustained winds of around 160 kilometers per hour, which I think is very low. No, it's more than that, isn't it? It's 185 kilometers per hour, which I still think is quite low for the storm's current intensity. This is, by all accounts, really, on the satellite imagery, most likely a Category 4. We're giving it 150 miles per hour based on this satellite appearance. Although, those latest frames aren't looking so kind on the storm. There's that latest frame there at 1240 UTC, the eastern side. Isn't looking so grand. It could possibly even be an open eye there on the eastern side. And on the western side and everywhere else around the storm, you've got that band of minus 70 degree cloud tops. That's the red zone, and the yellow zone is minus 80 degrees Celsius cloud tops. What it means essentially is higher clouds, and that usually indicates a stronger storm. The eye temperature is probably still in the region of 5 to 10 degrees Celsius. That usually means usually means Category 4 at least. And obviously, the higher the eye temperature, the stronger a storm it likely is. Alright, let's see if we can get on some more questions. There have been one or two. Tacloban's future conditions. Well, what you can see in terms of Tacloban right now is that it would appear that the centre of the storm has made its closest approach and is now moving away. So if conditions aren't so bad there, they probably won't get much worse at all in Tacloban. They're going to get away with this one, I reckon. I don't know what the windiness is over there right now. If anyone is there, please let us know. And of course, send in your observations if you're watching from the Philippines today as well this evening. Not only does it help us pinpoint what the observations actually are and what we might expect in the future, but it helps other people when we relay all this information as well, because not only are there people in these areas, but there are people who know people in the areas and obviously want to find out how things are. But that's the latest satellite imagery. Just to give you another loop of that again uninterrupted, to show the progress of the storm in the last 4 hours. Still moving westwards at around 12 miles per hour. That's about 19 kilometers per hour. That's the movement of the storm. And in just a moment or two, I'm going to try and get another resource up and try and find out the latest distance from land, because that is obviously quite an important feature given that landfall is imminent. But whilst we wait for that, it's just me today, so I have to do absolutely everything, so sometimes we might have one or two little gaps. So on the very latest imagery, which is 20 minutes ago, the latest position of the center of the storm's eye is approximately 17 miles from Gubat in the near the southern tip of Luzon. 17 miles from Gubat, which is approximately not far from 30 kilometers. So it's drawing in pretty close, and by that, given that imagery is 20 minutes old, that means that landfall will probably occur in about an hour. Give you some more location identifiers right now. It is 45 miles from Legazpi City. On Samar, it is 38 miles from Qatar and 59 miles from Calbayog City. It is 65 miles from Masbate City. I'll try and convert these to kilometers because a lot of people work with that. So Qatar is approximately 60 kilometers away. Calbayog City is around 100 kilometers. Masbate City around the same. Legazpi City is around 70 kilometers away from the storm center right now. Burias Island is somewhere around 120 kilometers away. Catanduanes Island, of course, the southern tip of that is about 70 kilometers from the center of the storm right now. Naga is roughly 150 kilometers away, and going right up to Batangas, that is around, well, it's 233 miles. I'm not familiar with that conversion. Manila, 256 miles. Given the storm's current movement, it will be probably, how long? Quite a while, probably at least 24 hours before it makes its closest pass to places like Manila. Although its direction is still not confirmed or not assured, the latest forecast from the JTWC and JMA pretty much agreeing is that it will pass in the channel between Mindoro and Batangas Bay. If you've just joined us, this is the latest live rolling coverage on Typhoon Kammuri up until landfall, which we now expect will happen in about an hour in southeastern Luzon. We'll be here up until landfall, and then we'll probably, I'm not sure what we'll do after that. We might leave this automated stream up, or we might take a break. But in the meantime, send in all of your questions, because for a lot of these areas in southeastern Luzon, there's going to be a pretty long night ahead. Okay, we did have quite a few more questions though. How high is the speed of the winds when it reaches Batangas? Well, it will probably still be a typhoon by then, so we could expect, let's put it into signal warning perspectives. By the way, Signal 3 warnings only in effect. I think that is incorrect. I think there should be Signal 4 warnings in effect for the regions that are going to get the landfall, quite honestly. But I think the Batangas region will probably receive Signal 3 conditions. Signal 4 can't be ruled out, but at the moment I doubt that. Will Metro Manila be hit? That was another question there as well. They are currently under Signal 2, if I'm not mistaken, and they will at least get Signal 2 conditions. Signal 3 is a bit of a push at the moment unless it moves a little bit further north. Which, of course, it could, but we don't know, obviously, just yet. And a question on whether there'll be a 10 p.m. update today. Well, I'm here, so there's not going to be a 10 p.m. standard update tonight. We will probably still be live. And how strong will it be hitting southern Luzon? Well, as said, the current wind speed is 150 miles per hour, 240 kilometers per hour, depicted by satellite estimates. And that would certainly warrant Signal 4 if correct. Even if it isn't, and the JTWC are correct with their estimate, 130 miles per hour, I think that still warrants Signal 4 because that is over 170 kilometers per hour. So A little bit baffled as to why those aren't in effect, unless there's new information on Pegasa. I'm worried about refreshing that particular page, because it might be down again, because that website is up and down all the time at the minute. But I can say, last refresh from a few minutes ago, it is only Signal 3. And I'm not familiar when their next update is. As a matter of fact, that is right now. So yeah, there's not going to be an update to those signal warnings for several hours. If I'm not mistaken, from what I can see on Pegasa's warning page, they're saying that they've issued the 11 PM warning even though it's only 9 PM in the Philippines. Well, I'm not sure how much sense that makes, but that's what they're saying on the latest information. Alright, there's probably some more questions here. Let's see what we have. An unrelated note, any more North Indian Ocean cyclones? There are 2 areas of interest in the North Indian Ocean today. Won't be able to show you them, unfortunately, because I don't have the resources ready here. But I can tell you that there are potential systems that could be developing there. Alright, we have some more questions. When's the next update in UTC? Well, as stated, we're not sure because we're currently running live coverage. And I'm not sure how long this will go on for, at least in live format. Up until landfall at least, and that is expected in about an hour's time. We will probably run an update though early in the early hours of the morning, and whenever necessary, really. Alright, well, people are saying that the update is 8 PM, but as far as I can see, it says they issued it at 11 PM. I can't really understand that Pegasa page. Maybe they've made a mistake, but we'll keep looking to see if there's any updates. But this is still the latest imagery that we're looking at on the screen of the storm's progress and the edge of the eye reaching land at this point, it would seem. Let me see if I can get some more latest imagery that I can show you, or I'm looking at it on another screen here. But the edge of the storm is just about, the edge of the eye just about reaching the coastline. As said before, well, on the very latest imagery, which is at 1:09 UTC, which is 18 minutes ago, which is probably about the latest imagery we're going to get here, the center of the eye was now 14 miles from Gubat. So 14 miles, that's around 22 kilometers or so. So this storm is getting really close. That is the center of the eye though. There is a big eye wall, a large one all the way around. Catanduan is possibly getting the eye wall at this point. The southeastern part of Luzon definitely receiving the eye wall at this moment. Particularly Sorsogon, and then eventually up to Albay as well. And that will happen probably in about an hour or two for the latter province. And then after that, it remains to be seen whether Kammuri Sur will get the eye wall. I think possibly the southern extremity of it will, and then Burias Island would be the next location, and then the southern tip of Quezon, I think it is as well, will probably receive maybe even another landfall there as well. The current movement of this storm is west, pretty much due west at about 12 miles per hour, which means that landfall is expected in about 1 hour from now. And there's not much else that can really be said at this juncture. But if there's any more questions, we'll take questions. I think that's the most useful part of these landfall streams. So start your message with Force 13, tag us it will light up big and bright for us live, and I'll be able to take those questions, as many people have already done. More questions that I've just been looking at randomly. Will it be as strong as Haiyan? No, it has got no chance, really has got no chance of being the strongest storm of the decade, which Haiyan was. And how strong will it be on Laguna Province? At the moment, again, we're looking at tomorrow, but I would say certainly signal 2 conditions, possibly signal 3 if it deviates north of forecast. Will any other invests in the Western Pacific develop into a tropical storm? Well, there have been rumblings about the area of interest behind this storm, but I've not heard anything recently, so I can only assume that it isn't going to happen for that next system. We'll continue to watch that, though, as well. And let's see who else we have as well. Lots of things going by here. Why is it stage 7 on the CDPS scale if it has become a super typhoon on our analysis? Well, it is only a CDPS stage 7, still catastrophic potential impact. It's high-end stage 7, and it's mainly due to probably a fairly small hurricane or typhoon wind field. It is not a particularly large one, and the tropical storm wind field is fairly small on the southern side, or projected to be. So that's why it is only, in inverted commas, a stage 7, even though that is still massive. And the potential impact is huge, particularly with the rainfall. I think the rainfall threat is going to be the biggest threat of everything, because 500 millimeters possible for parts of southeastern Luzon, and over 100, 200 millimeters all the way up to Manila and maybe beyond as well. This storm will dump a lot of rain. The cloud tops are very high around the storm, which would suggest very high rain rates occurring. Alright, that page has just gone down as well. We'll try and get it back. There it is. So there it is. Again, more recent imagery. That is up to 1 UTC, which is 32 minutes ago. And you can see there the grey areas, which around the edge of the eye, moving over land at this point. But lots of reds and yellows. What you will notice again, though, still that massive hole on the eastern side of Kammuri's eye. So it does suggest to me that possibly that eye is open on the eastern side, which is swirling round back towards the north again now. And that would be a sign that will probably impede the storm from strengthening much more, and could possibly lead to an earlier breakup of the storm when it does reach that the friction of striking land. Alright, we're still getting lots more questions here. Keep sending them in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Just me at the moment taking the stream. Could there be significant wind on Manila? Well, once again, a lot of people wanting to know about Manila, the capital, of course. And as said, a Signal 2 warning currently in effect. That could be raised to Signal 3 if the storm deviates north just a little bit. It wouldn't take very much. At the moment, though, the typhoon conditions will stay away from Manila unless we see a change. It is still moving due west at this point, and I don't think we're going to see that change happening, immediately. It might take a little bit of time before we can ascertain whether it will move a bit further north or not. Of course, earlier forecasts did project that this storm would strike further north. Indeed, we weren't sure at first whether it would strike this part of the Philippines at all. There was the potential that it would miss these islands and then move on to strike central Luzon, but that obviously hasn't happened. But there is still that possibility. We do expect that northward curve to happen at some point because there is a temporary weakness. But at the moment, it is still moving due west, and as far as I know, there are no indications that that weakness will happen early, because if it did, it would start to move north earlier. But then eventually the ridge will build back in and the storm will shove off really towards the southwest at some pace. Uh, 1:35 p.m. UTC. This is Force 13 live, and this is the latest coverage, live coverage on Typhoon Kammuri, Philippine name Tisoy, which is expected to make landfall in around 1 hour. It is just off the coast of southeastern Luzon and could strike the Sorsogon region, make landfall there in about 1 hour. So we're looking at around half past the next hour for that potential landfall. And again, if you've got comments or questions for us live on the air, well, someone's ringing me now. That's really helpful on a live stream. Sorry about that. Nothing I can do about telephones ringing in the studio. But again, this is the latest coverage on Typhoon Kammuri. Landfall expected very soon. Keep sending in your questions. We'll take them live. Let's see if we've got some more now at this point. Do we think Metro Manila will get into the northern Eyewall with a small jog north? That is... Well, yes, it would only take a small jog north, as I've been saying a moment ago. Will it become a Category 5 with winds of 160 miles per hour? I doubt it. It can't be completely ruled out, but I doubt that. Can the track of the eye move towards Laguna and Manila? Well, it can, but I doubt it at this point. How large is the wind field? That is also a very pertinent question at this point. It extends, according to JTWC, around 220 nautical miles towards the north. The graphical depiction of that wind field can be seen on their map here. Maybe a little bit less than that right now, but it will extend to that a little bit later. What you can see on this graphic, let's see if we can really zoom in on this. So if you're not familiar with these graphics from the JTWC, I'll explain it now. So the first round region there, that's the wind field of the storm at their last update, which was correct as of 6 UTC, which is about 8 hours ago now, nearly. It has moved west a little bit more since then. Obviously, it's just about to make landfall, and faster than they predicted, I think. Maybe not, actually. About the same speed that they were expecting. Although a little bit further south as well, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? Maybe very slightly. Not very much. But the first of all, you've got the inner ring there. That's the sort of pink-coloured ring. That's the Typhoon wind field there, right near the centre. Then you've got the middle ring, which is sort of like a dark red colour there. That's the 50-knot wind field. That's 60 miles per hour, around 105 kilometre per hour sustained winds in that wind field. And then the outer ring there is the tropical storm wind field. That's virtually the signal 2 warning threshold. That's gale force winds of 65 kilometres per hour. And you'll see how those rings expand, particularly on the northern side over time on their forecast, until the storm blows itself out and dives off towards the southwest, far away from any other parts of the Philippines. So that's really what we're looking at in the next few days, according to them. Just a reminder of what the Japan Meteorological Agency is saying on their latest forecast. They're going with 115 mile per hour winds, Category 3. And of course, they are the official organisation in the basin, the RSMC, and they're expecting could be a landfall there on Mindoro. Let's see if we can just draw them lines. Yep, the landfall on Mindoro they're calling for, but of course there are cones of uncertainty, and you can't rule out a landfall on the other side of that channel. Let's get back to the latest infrared imagery. Let's see if there's any new frames that we can look at. That there is the very latest. No new frames at this point. That's the latest from 1 p.m. UTC. I'm going to go back and try and get a new update on this. I don't think it will work properly, but this is going to be the most up-to-date imagery that will appear on this screen. Alright, there it is. It is actually working alright. So those are the very latest images of the storm. Speed that up a little bit. And this imagery goes up to 7 minutes past this hour, so that's not the very latest imagery, but it's the most recent that I can actually show you on the screen. What I can see on one of my other screens, which unfortunately you won't be able to see, is the very latest imagery, which is from 19 minutes past, and again the storm is around 15 miles away from landfall, expected in about an hour. So this storm continues to push on towards the west, moving at about 12 miles per hour. Considering that the imagery that we're constantly looking at is at least 20 minutes old, it has probably made up a couple more miles in that time, so leads me to think that landfall will probably occur in about an hour, sometime around half past the next hour. We won't be able to confirm that immediately. It will take a little while after that before we can actually confirm that landfall has taken place, and obviously we'll let you know when it does. Alright, let's see if there's any more questions at this point. Start your message with Force 13, all in text, and it will light up for us. But actually, I don't think there have been many at this point, although more questions coming in that haven't been linked to me. Is it possible that a track will change to Masbate? Well, that's a bit too far south. You look at it on this imagery here, it's right down there. It would have to literally turn southwest, and I really don't see that happening. But Boreas Island to the west there could get a landfall. More questions about how large is the storm in radius? Well, of course, if you're looking at radius, it depends which direction you're taking it, but the maximum is around, the gale force winds around 200 nautical miles, which is getting towards 300 kilometers, a little bit more than that actually, a little bit more than 300 kilometers to the north. To the south, it is probably around 250 kilometers at this point. Could Laguna experience the typhoon winds is another question. We're getting these questions quite often. I know people come in and out though, so I'll repeat these answers. Laguna, Manila area, all of those regions could get signal 3 conditions if the storm deviates towards the north, but there's no signs of that happening at this moment in time. How big is the storm surge? That's another question that we've received. Well, when we're calculating storm surge, that is usually just an indication. It isn't what might actually be happening. Considering this storm blew up pretty late, I imagine the storm surge won't be huge. But the general guide, I think Pegasa list a guide on their warnings. Well, not from what I can see here. I'm sure they did. They do actually have a storm surge forecast. Let me just see if I can check that one out. And they are expecting, yes, 2 to 3 meters of storm surge expected in Camarines Sur and Catanduanes. 1 to 2 meters of storm surge expected in Quezon, Camarines Norte, and Samar. Evacuation is advised in all of those coastal regions. Just a reminder of the latest warnings. They have actually corrected their warning time. They did initially say 11 p.m. even though it hadn't happened, and they've actually changed it back to 8 p.m. So that clears up that confusion. So just to confirm the latest warnings, as of 8 p.m. from Pagasa, Signal 3 on Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, Camarines Norte, Masbate, including Ticao and Burias Islands, Romblon, and the southern portion of Quezon, and the southern portion of Batangas as well, Signal 3, and I think rightly so. Personally, I think Signal 4 should be issued for the landfall zone right now. Also, Northern Samar, Signal 3, the northern portion of Eastern Samar, and the northern portion of Samar province. Signal 2 warnings extending further towards the northwest as well, includes Metro Manila at this point, Bulacan, Bataan, Tarlac, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Southern Aurora, and the rest of Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, Rizal, and the rest of Quezon. Occidental Mindoro, Calamian Islands, Zambales, Cuyo Islands, and Pangasinan, all under Signal 2. In Luzon, in the Visayas region, it's the rest of Eastern Samar, the rest of Samar itself, Biliran Island, Aklan, Capi, Antique, Iloilo, northern portion of Negros Occidental, and the northern portion of Leyte, and Guimaras, also under Signal 2, and Signal 1 warnings extending up to southern Isabela, and lots of other locations in Luzon extending far towards the north. The Visayas region extending to the southern tips of those islands as well, Cebu, Leyte, Bohol as well, and also as far south as the Dinagat Islands and Siargao Island in Mindanao. This is Force 13 Live. We're still running coverage on Typhoon Kammuri. This is live ahead of the storm's landfall, which is anticipated in the next 1 hour or less. As soon as we get more information regarding the landfall, which hasn't yet happened but will do very soon, we'll let you know. Another question there, what is expected in Bohol? Well, obviously, as said there, Signal 1 warnings in effect. I don't think it will get any worse than that. We look on the infrared imagery, you'll see that it is on the very edge, and to be honest with you, it's making its closest pass to Bohol right now, so I think you'll be in the clear very soon. When we're talking about Leyte as well, Tacloban region and all that, the worst conditions have probably finished now for Leyte, maybe except the northern tip. All other locations really, well, I think we can also say that eastern Mindanao, the southeastern tip of Samar, has probably already seen the worst now as well that you're going to get. So those areas that I've just mentioned will be in the clear very soon. But at the moment, the places that are being most affected right now, Catanduanes in the northern side there under very high cloud tops at this point. Large parts of southeastern Luzon underneath that right now as well. Northern Samar really getting pounded by another massive cloud top in those latest frames, extending up again towards minus 90 degrees Celsius. There it is in that latest frame. So that's another indication there that some significant massive rain rates are probably occurring there. Masbate is still going to get the worst very shortly. Maybe not the worst that the storm's got to give, but the worst they'll see in about 2 or 3 hours, depending on where you are. Burias Island, maybe 3 or 4 hours, and then moving on towards parts of Quezon, the southern tip there, we're probably looking at about 6 or 7 hours at least. Maybe more than that, depending on the storm's movement. Marinduque follows that in about 12 hours maybe, and then on to Mindoro and Batangas, which looks to me like 12 to 15 hours. Those are just estimates, and that could well change. Again, here is the latest imagery of the storm. Let's see if we can get another reload on this and see if there's any new imagery to look at. We've been having, it's been a bit temperamental, this imagery, so it could go wrong, but it looks like it's still working all right. And the latest imagery here is 117, which I think is what it was last time, actually. I don't think we've had an update on that, unless it's decided to stop working. But that is as of 17 minutes past the hour earlier on. That is the latest image that we have. Trying to source some other imagery right now too. I am wondering whether we're getting the very latest that we can get here or not. Looks like we are though. The latest image I have is 1:29 UTC, which is yeah, 21 minutes ago. It is still offshore, still by about 15 or 16 miles, so we're not looking at a landfall just yet. But in the next hour, probably, we will see that landfall. So, let's take some more questions, which I'm sure there will be by now. Yes, there's been a massive amount of questions. Another question there. How long is the typhoon? I'm not really sure what you mean by that. The width of the typhoon, as I said earlier, radius is about up to 300 kilometers. Diameter is probably around 500 to 600 kilometers in terms of tropical storm force winds. Will it hit other land areas after the Philippines? The answer really is no. We'll do another roundup of the forecast at the top of the hour. Any chances of regeneration or re-strengthening for Kammuri in the South China Sea after landfall? Not likely, but there is a small chance that it could regain a little bit of intensity when it does that, but it will be very short-lived and it will die off pretty quickly. That's usually what happens in December. Sea surface temperatures in the South China Sea are down to about 25 degrees Celsius. Can we explain the color coding of the graph before the image with the red, yellow and green? Well, we can go ahead and do that once more. So these are the cloud top temperatures that we're looking at on this imagery. It doesn't indicate directly rainfall. It doesn't indicate directly wind speed. But these indications we've been using for decades to try and figure out the actual strength of a storm. Usually a rule of thumb is when there is a red ring on this imagery around the storm's eye, then that usually indicates a mid-range category 4. If the eye temperature is plus 10 or so in Celsius, then that could well denote a category 5. We're seeing not only reds wrapping around, but yellows there as well. Although it has to be said, in that very latest image, and the latest imagery there is a significant chunk out of the eastern Eyewall there. Let's just see if we can get new imagery on that. There should be a new one by now. Yep, up to 20 past now. You can see they're trying to build back in, but that you can't really ignore that there is a significant gap there on the northeastern side. Dry slot, or maybe even an eye that's open on that side. But again, those are the cloud top temperatures. The greens are minus 60 Celsius, the red minus 70, the yellow minus 80. Any whites you see will be minus 90. Those temperatures indicate the cloud top heights. The higher the cloud tops, the higher the clouds, then that means obviously they're colder up in the atmosphere, and that usually signals more intensity. That's how it all works. And then in the center there, the eye, a warmer eye temperature means that we're seeing less cloud coverage down to the ground, and that means a stronger storm as well, especially if the eye is complete. Can Kammuri change tracks like Ramazan and Zhangsain in 2006? I did make a fleeting comparison to Zhangsain last night. But I don't think it can really be compared to that storm particularly, considering that one happened in September. And Ramazan also happened at a different time of year. I don't think... I mean, yes, there is always that potential that the track could shift towards the north, but it is good agreement in the model's consensus that it will continue on more of a due west heading than that. But it could... We do... The thing is, we do expect it to take a northward jog at some point, but at the moment we're expecting it to be after it passes through the Philippines. So, obviously, if that changes and it happens before then obviously there'll be a change of plan there, and there could be elevated warnings elsewhere. Okay, what time will it hit Laguna and Manila? Well, again, the latest JTWC warning map, which they'll probably be updating in about an hour or maybe two, but this was the last expectation from the JTWC. They're expecting it to make its closest pass to Manila at 9 AM UTC tomorrow, which is around 5 PM Philippine time on Tuesday. Has it reached maximum intensification? My guess, to tell you really, my guess on that would be yes. I think this storm has probably reached its peak. That imagery has stopped working now, as I expected it would at some point. So we'll leave it with the infrared for the time being. It looks to me like it possibly has reached its peak before it reaches land. This is Force 13 Live. We'll have more updates coming up in the next hour or so. You're watching it just as we are here in real time. No particular script on this, on an event like this. So continue to send in your messages and we'll get onto them in real time. Can Kammuri possibly re-strengthen the South China Sea? As I said, a small chance. Probably not, but it could do a little bit. And a question about Mindoro as well. I can tell you that Mindoro will probably get Signal 3 conditions, particularly the northern side. Typhoon conditions likely, possibly Category 2 conditions likely, and that would put it under Signal 4, which I think should definitely be occurring right now. Signal 4 conditions in the southeastern part of Luzon. Why they've not issued Signal 4 is quite frankly beyond me. Let's see if we have any more new questions at this point. I'm still catching up with a lot of them actually. Will we be doing a track video of the storm afterwards? Well, I can't say anything about that just yet. We're still right in the middle of the event, so ask in about 2 or 3 days and we'll see. We're still getting a lot of the same questions as well there, which I answered not so long ago. People asking about its expected impacts and human cost. Well, I can't say much about that, quite honestly. I just hope that people take the necessary precautions, particularly from storm surge. But I am a bit fearful of it, considering that this is going to be not just a Category 4 landfall, but a significant rainmaker as well. Roughly up to 500 millimeters of rain, quite possibly, in some of these areas. Our live coverage continues. This is Force 13 Live. Updates on Typhoon Kammuri, local name in the Philippines, Tisoy, and landfall is expected within the next hour. Exactly when, we're not totally sure just yet. Our early indications are showing that landfall may occur in about half an hour. I'm now joined by Devon, who was with us earlier this morning, local time. How are you? Hold on, we've not got you just yet. Let me just try and... something will have gone amiss there. We've got you now.
Got me now?
Yep. Good morning to you over there in the US.
Yeah, definitely an interesting morning to say the least.
Well, we had a feeling this kind of thing would happen overnight. I certainly did at the very end of last night when I was looking at the last image before bed, Devon, and I saw that it looked like half a Category 4 because the cloud tops were massive on the eastern side. The eye temperature was getting towards positives, but the northwestern side was completely not there. But now it is.
Yeah. Oh. But now, before it was, but now it isn't. That's the thing. Is that,
true.
It definitely didn't maintain. And again, with the thing with Kammuri and storms like this, is that they typically have issues maintaining their structure. This storm, although it looks a lot better than it did this morning, good Lord, steady intensification. This thing clearly a Category 4 now. Definitely looked really impressive at about 6 in the morning here on the East Coast. But it's definitely waned a little bit since then.
Well, that would have been pretty much when we made our call that it was 150 miles an hour, I guess.
And it would have looked 150 then. Certainly doesn't look 150 now.
Might have to change them numbers. But still, a CDPS Stage 7 high end at that. Could you tell us a bit about expected impacts in the landfall zone?
Well, landfall is pretty much imminent at this point. Taking a look at it. And I'm looking at imagery that's a half an hour out of date. So landfall's, it hasn't happened yet, probably has happened. But any kind of landfall effects that is probably being experienced right now with the storm, well, we're talking Category 4 winds, definitely being sustained within the Eyewall here. I was saying that we were going to see winds of at least 150 miles an hour within the Eyewall. There you go. We're going to have 130 mile an hour winds. And I said brace for over 200 kilometers an hour. We've definitely got that here.
And this is a bit of a shocker when we're looking at Pegasus warnings, Devon. They haven't issued Signal 4 warnings for the southeastern tip of Luzon. Signal 4 begins about halfway through Category 2. I think that's outrageous.
Yeah, Signal 4 warning should have definitely been issued with this storm. I mean, just take a look at the JTWC intensity, which has it, I believe, at 90, which also seems really low for this storm. I can't see how this is 90.
They're running with what, sorry?
They're going with 90 knots.
Well, they will be... No, they had it high. They will be going with 115 knots at the next update.
Oh, they'll be going 115 next update. Okay, so that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. 115 is what we should be going with at this storm. Taking a look at it right now. 115 knots, 130 miles an hour. But taking 130 mile an hour winds as it's basically bashing into southeastern Luzon. Definitely should have been Signal 4 warnings. I can't remember what the threshold for Signal 5, but I think that's over 130 miles an hour, isn't it?
I can't remember. It's high. I think it's 220 kilometers per hour or something like that. Which is, I mean, on our estimates, it's stronger than that right now. Latest estimate, Devon, from 49 minutes past the last hour. So how long is that? 15 minutes ago, it was still 13 miles off.
13 miles off. Okay. So yeah, landfall's pretty much it. The landfall area is currently getting the eyewall. We could safely say that.
Yeah. are you a bit surprised? I don't think you are, to be honest, because you were saying last night that it was most likely going to move due west. It's done exactly that, hasn't it?
Yep. Not surprised by the track of it at all. It was forecast to move pretty much due west into southeastern Luzon, and it's done exactly that. So the track has been pretty masterfully forecasted by the models here, to say the least.
All right, let's see if we can get some more questions and take them together here. The possibilities of it hitting Cavite with strong winds. Now that is near Manila. I think it's on the southern side, if I'm not mistaken. So there, and we should mention again, Devon, particularly for the Manila region, and all of those populated places around it, a slight deviation north could bring typhoon conditions over there.
Yes, that is definitely the case. We're definitely going to be talking about at least gale force conditions sustained for probably somewhere in the range of 48 hours for the Manila metro area and the surrounding suburbs. So I would expect about 48 hours, and that's not necessarily because the storm's going to slow down, but as it goes over the Philippine Islands, that's going to disrupt the core, and it's going to get bigger as it moves over.
And curiously, I've mentioned this already on the stream, but your take on it, the JTWC forecasting the wind field to grow enormously on the northern side, but shrink quite a lot on the southern side. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so that I'm not quite sure how they come up with that. I'm going to say probably because there's going to be some sort of limiting factor to the south that would end up preventing the gales to develop to the south. Probably due to the wind shear that's going to be starting to really be getting its act together once it moves into the South China Sea. So that's what I would suspect, but I can't be 100% sure without actually doing about a half an hour of research into that.
Of course. Again, we've got the latest images there. And again, Devon, is it a mega dry slot that this is, or is it just an unstructured eye wall?
Well, it wasn't there. It wasn't there a couple of hours ago. As I was saying, it was looking pretty good just a couple of hours ago, and then you could see the dry slot there, and then it kind of just circles around. So maybe it was there the entire time. I don't know.
It could even be the same one that we were looking at last night.
Yeah, it could even be the same one because it's just wrapping around the storm, and it doesn't look like it's necessarily been able to. And good thing that thing's been there, or else it probably would be 150 miles an hour right now.
Or higher.
Or higher, yeah. So it's definitely a good thing that Kammuri... definitely a good thing that Kammuri's had these limiting factors, because everything else in the environment's great. I mean, all other things put aside, this thing should have been a super typhoon. We're lucky that it isn't right now, as it continues to move towards eventual landfall and hopefully some rapid weakening. Of course, once it moves...
You say hopefully. We've just had a question there, worried that Kammuri will hold its strength whilst going through the Philippines like Malor.
Right.
Of that?
So that's exactly what I was about to comment on, is that it also depends on the track. Again, it heavily depends on the track of Kammuri. If it ends up going on a more north...
Oh, we've lost Devon there briefly. Is he still with us? All right, we've lost our link there for the moment. We'll take some more questions then whilst we try and get Devon back. I have no idea what's happened with that. This rainmaker is most welcome for our water supply, but will unfortunately be causing major flooding too, is another comment that we get. I'm sure that is indeed the case. In the meantime, that was another view that we were looking at earlier. Just going to try and hop on the floaters for the storm as well, the NOAA floaters, so we can take a look at the last 6 hours or so. Hopefully that will load in just a moment. In the meantime, we'll throw it back to this imagery. Can it be the same track as the track of Typhoon Glenda? Now, I forget which one's which after a while. You'll have to help me out with that one, what the international name was, because that's what we work with at this point. I thought I could remember it. I actually cannot at this point. If we've got any more locations that you'd like input on, then we can certainly do that. We're back with Devon now. We lost your signal for some time there.
Am I back?
Glenda is Ramazan, just as I thought. I can't remember what Ramazan's track was through the Philippines. Oh, I think we've lost him again. Well,
oh boy.
No,
Hello?
We're back.
Hello?
Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I've been here. I've been able to hear you perfectly fine. I don't know exactly what's been going on.
That's strange.
I don't know if it's my connection or...
Some people are asking about Ramazan's track. I can't actually remember its track through the Philippines exactly. Can you?
No, I definitely can't. I'll have to look it up. Let me go ahead and do that.
All right. In the meantime, we'll take some more questions if there are any at this point. I'm sure there have been. Let's see.
Yeah, so I just looked it up here. What it looks like here is that Ramazan actually is taking a very similar track to it's taken a very similar track to Kammuri here. But it looks like that Ramazan moved a little bit to the north of west. And what it also looks like here is that it seems to, at least according to the JTWC, intensified over Luzon. I think that's probably due to lag in the observations there. Because I don't see why a storm would intensify over land, but pretty much tracked pretty close to the Manila area as well. Probably gave them typhoon force conditions.
Now, Devon, we know that at some point, or at least the JTWC, they're expecting a bit of a weakness in the ridge, from what I've heard, which could get the storm to lean a bit further north. They expect that will happen after it passes through the Philippines. Do you think there's a chance it could happen early, which would obviously give chances for those typhoon conditions in those populated zones?
Well, there's always a chance it'll move north of forecast. I mean, there's also just as equal of a probability of it moving south of forecast. So it's pretty much just speculation at that point. There's no real reason to say, hey, there's a big probability of this getting pulled up to the north. This thing has been moving due west. The forecast has been pretty well established with this storm so far. I see it probably moving just a little bit north of due west over the next 36 hours or so. Definitely not on a trajectory that would bring the eye anywhere near the Manila area. But yeah, definitely a small deviation in that track there would bring typhoon force conditions to the Manila area.
This is a 6 or 7 hour loop from NOAA floaters showing how the storm has progressed on the infrared first of all there. And as you can see, landfall expected very soon. And to be honest with you, Devon, I don't know if it's an optical illusion there, but I think it could still be ever so slightly south of west.
Maybe it is just a little bit south of west. I can't really tell from the imagery that I'm looking at. I don't really have a reference line. It looks pretty west to me, but it's so close to being west, I can't really tell if it's moving a little bit north or a little bit south. That also has to do with the eye shape being extremely irregular.
Yeah. That can also put things off, sure.
So it's really difficult for me to tell without any sort of reference line what it's actually doing here.
Just waiting for some more rapid imagery to come in. I don't have any updates from the one before. I think it comes in every 10 minutes.
RAM rapid scan isn't even working, hasn't even updated.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that at the moment, but if I do get some more rapid scan imagery of the storm in the next few moments, then we'll be able to get another estimate on how far it is from landfall. I did expect it would be about 7:30, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be closer to the end of this hour now.
Yeah, well, regardless of when the actual eye ends up coming over here, obviously the Eyewall is directly over southeastern Luzon right now, and also on the northern edge of, I can't even remember the name of that island.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Were we talking about which island?
The northern edge of the other island there is also getting the Eyewall.
Oh, Samar, yeah.
Yeah, Samal. There we go.
Places
I do apologize. My Filipino geography is not exactly very well-rounded, to say the least. I try my best.
That were significantly affected by Malor, though, getting it again right now, really. And I do wonder whether it will end up taking a track of Malor if it continues to deviate south.
Well, Malor went way to the south of this, yeah.
Not by that much, only by about 20 or 30 miles.
Well, that is way to the south when you consider that these islands are also about 20, 30 miles. No, but seriously, when Malor crossed over here, it then got into the bay between like these 3 or 4 islands here, and then re-intensified, and then hit the another one of these islands here. Meanwhile, if Kammuri were to do the same thing, it would have to intensify in a little gap to the southwest of Luzon and in between a bunch of smaller islands, and then make landfall to whatever this island is to the south or southwest of Manila. I don't know exactly where Manila is.
Are we talking about Marinduque now? Or Mindoro?
Marinduque?
Marinduque is the really small one, and Mindoro is the rather large one there.
Okay.
But both of those places are potential landfall zones, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And also, we're looking, I mean, after this first landfall, the next place that looks like it will get a landfall is Burias Island, which is the one northwest of Masbate. And then, if it does continue to deviate south, I am a bit concerned, that it will enter that same area of sea. I'm sure it has a local name. I can't quite grab it at the moment, but I'm a bit concerned that it has a little bit more real estate there for potential re-intensification.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm talking about Mindoro as far as the island.
So that's the
the big one to the south of Manila.
Yeah, JTWC have it going right in that channel. The JMA have a northern Mindoro landfall on their forecast, so very close.
So that's something that we really have to watch out for here is a potential I think that Kammuri is going to be too big for it to re-intensify, but that's just something to keep an eye on. Once it reemerges on the other side of Luzon here, once it gets into the straits here in between Luzon and Mindoro, there is potential for some type of reorganization.
I'm just looking at new imagery, new rapid scan imagery. It looks like it's coming apart, quite honestly. I can't really make out where the center of this eye is anymore. It may have made landfall, but I've got no idea. Once we get to see the 2 p.m. UTC imagery on this particular screen that we're looking at, should be another 20 minutes or so, you'll see what I mean. It is completely losing it at the moment.
Well, taking a look at the 1340 imagery that I can see here, looks like it has made landfall.
Even at 1340?
Not at 1340, but as of now, it's had to have at least come ashore.
I think that might be right. We can't confirm it, but that is what we suspect.
Yeah, it's got to be. It can't be more than 10 miles off the shore at 1340.
Let's see if we can get updated imagery on here. On this version of the rapid scan, let's see what the latest image is. Fingers crossed. 147 UTC. Well, that shows more imagery. The eye certainly. What it looks like is that the western side of the eye is completely clouded over. The eastern side is the only part left, and that's just about to move ashore. Considering this this imagery is 20 to 30 minutes ago, yeah, I think we can call a landfall at this point.
I would definitely agree with that. If the center of the eye has not come ashore yet, it is very, very, very close.
If it has made landfall, then the landfall zone is probably near Prieto Diaz, which is in Sorsogon province in Luzon, to the north of Gubat and to the northeast of Sorsogon city. That is approximately 30 miles or 60 kilometers, 50-60 kilometers east of Legazpi city. And this would appear to be the first landfall of Typhoon Kammuri, Philippine name Tisoy. We haven't yet confirmed it, but we think it's made landfall at this point.
Yep, and it would be a lot easier to confirm if we had radar, but...
Well, there is radar.
Do we have radar?
Just not been able to get it yet.
Is it out of Manila, or is there a different radar that there may be?
Pegasa have links, and I can't remember where they are now.
And has the Pegasa website been running?
It's in and out at the minute.
I imagine probably the traffic to the website is insane.
I'll do my best to get that radar as soon as possible. But at the moment, this is the latest satellite imagery showing the extent of Typhoon Kammuri, and much larger than Milor. That can be said for sure.
Yeah, much, much, much larger than Milor.
We will have radar very soon. I'll be able to take a look, and hopefully we can have some answers on this. But in the meantime, let's see if there's any questions. I think there's been quite a few at this point. So sorry if we've missed any. Will it weaken after it landfalls as it interacts over high mountains in the north, and what will happen in the south? Well, regardless of that, it looks like it's weakening already, right?
Yeah, it definitely looks like that it's fading in appearance already. So it doesn't seem like that. It's going to be maintaining its intensity as it moves over Luzon. It's already weakening. It peaked earlier with an appearance of 150 miles an hour. I don't know if it exactly got as strong as that, but with the way that it's looking right now, borderline Cat 3, Cat 4 as it comes ashore here in southeastern Luzon, and steady weakening should definitely be on the cards here, especially with the, I wouldn't say rapidly degrading appearance at this point, but definitely a degrading appearance as the moves overland.
Not sure how I'm going to get this to folks, but well, all I can say, I'm looking at radar right now, Devon, and I'm a bit baffled. It would appear on radar that the center of the storm is right on that eastern side of the eye.
So as in the landfall occurred a long time ago.
No, it's still offshore, according to radar.
Oh, really?
From what I can see, unless this is out of date, it says it's not, but maybe it is.
It would seem like that would be out of date to me. I mean, that's really weird.
That's all I'm getting at the moment, so... Nope, that is up to date. That, as far as I can gather, that is up to date. And according to radar, this storm is still approximately 20 miles away.
20 miles away on
The center of the eye.
Huh.
I'm baffled by that. I don't know whether that is completely true or not. We got new satellite estimates. Latest satellite is suggesting that the storm is... Well, it's really hard to tell now, to be honest with you, because it is getting so disorganized. Latest satellite is inconclusive. It could be 5 miles out from land, or it could be 1 mile inland. We haven't got a clue. But, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter a huge amount. Devon landfall is more of a symbolic thing than anything. The Eyewall has been felt on these shores for some time now. And maybe not 150 mile an hour sustained winds, but 150 mile an hour gusts.
Oh, definitely. The gusts are definitely there. No questioning about that. The gusts are definitely there.
If you've got any more questions for us whilst we're on the air, I'm not sure how long we're going to stay for here, but send a message. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. It will light up big and bright for us. And we'll be able to take them. I'm still a bit concerned that it will re-intensify a little bit, but looking at latest satellite imagery, it is really falling away. From what I can see...
That's as of right now as it's moving shore, of course. The re-intensification wouldn't happen probably for another 24 hours.
All right, Devon, between me and you, the team... in fact, I think people will be able... I'll be able to show this, hopefully. Hopefully this works. Nope, I don't think it will. I'm trying to show Devon some of the latest satellite imagery showing how disheveled the storm is really looking in the latest frames. I don't think that's working, is it?
It's buffering.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to finish buffering.
See, the latest frame that I have is as of a half an hour ago. So if you got anything more up to date than that, then...
Right.
The latest image that I have is 1400.
I'll get something through to you in just a moment. For the time being, we're still looking at this imagery. We're taking massive measures here to try and get... Because it's on one of the other screens, so I can't get it to display here on the stream. But let me just put this through to you, Devon, and see what you think of this image, and hopefully we can share it.
Wow, the eye is on the... on the 14Z, the eye is significantly shrunk in size.
Yeah, it looks... Alright, we should be able to get this image through. Let's see if we can...
I have the image.
This is a latest image of the typhoon right now. Devon, your analysis of what we're looking at there.
Well, we're looking at a storm that is degrading in appearance due to land interaction. That eye has significantly degraded in appearance. But
look at the surrounding eyewall cloud tops that look all over the place.
Yes, they are. Well, that's been the storm. That's really been the way the storm's the entire life,
Oh,
hasn't
it's
it?
way worse than the last few hours, though.
I mean, yeah, definitely losing uniformity there, and the ice structure's just gone. Barely any ice structure left to it. And what is that? What's the timestamp on
That was
that?
at 2:09, which is 20 minutes ago.
209. So maybe I might get the 210 image here up on RAM and see what that looks like.
The biggest question now is, has it made landfall or not?
Yeah, it's very close.
Here's again some more imagery from Himawari 8 up to 157. And this is the bigger picture of the last hour or so. Send in your questions live. Start your message with Force 13 all in text in the chat, and we can get onto them as soon as possible. Messy eye feature is one comment that we've just received. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes, very messy eye feet. Well, that's been the storm's entire life, even through the afternoon here in the Philippines when it was looking at its best. The eye still looked extremely messy.
We're going to share some imagery that people are posting on our Discord server right now. There's one loop that's from earlier on. If you want to join our Discord chat and chat with fellow tropical trackers, discord.gg/force13.
Are we looking at images or are we looking at tropical?
Well, I've not looked at images myself yet. What's
Okay.
being posted there, but that is a recent loop.
Nothing's being posted. That's a really nice floater of Kammuri, though.
That looks like it's a Sims floater, that one.
Yeah.
All right, more questions then. Why did the storm rapidly intensify, and is there a chance that it could change direction?
No, those are two big questions, honestly. Rapid intensification, it ended up blowing up mainly because the conditions were there for it. We were saying last night that
we've been saying for 4 days.
Yeah, that the conditions are great for the storm. Well, except for 2 of those days, because 2 of those days the wind shear was just attacking the storm, and it was clearly not going to get anywhere while it was getting pounded by shear.
At first, though, it was, wasn't it? But
yeah,
the thing is, it's somehow managed to stay at Category 1 for 4.5 days.
Yeah, definitely. So, but this storm, the way that it is now, is that it intensified from a borderline Cat 2, Cat 3 from this morning in the Philippines to this Category 4 now, mainly because the conditions have been there for it. This year hasn't. Obviously, the humidity's been fine, and the sea surface temperature is clearly there. So that's really the reason why it's been there. It just needed to get its act together, and it finally did. But by the time it started getting its act together, it's too close to the Philippines, and now land interaction's happening.
Yeah. About the eye, is it bad news or good news for those in the Philippines? It's definitely good news.
Definitely good news. That's a sign of weakening. The second question, though, the previous one, is this storm going to track north? Probably someone worrying about it tracking over Manila. As of right now, it does not look like the storm is going to track particularly close to Manila. Doesn't seem like you're going to get typhoon force conditions at this time. I believe there's over an 80% chance of tropical storm force conditions in Manila at this time.
Roughly, 79% in Manila.
Roughly 79?
Yeah.
Okay. So There you go. I mean, we've got a 4 out of 5 chance for tropical storm force winds, and the hurricane force winds are usually way smaller than the tropical storm force winds. So, as of right now, typhoon conditions, it's not looking very likely for Manila.
No, but it wouldn't take a huge deviation towards
No,
the north.
it wouldn't take a huge deviation, but it's not the models have been pretty keen on moving this storm basically due west. And there's really no indication that the storm's going to do otherwise for the time being.
All right. I think we have some more questions. Let's see. Well, there's an observation there from a Brit expat in Manila. NAIA, the main airport, is closed tomorrow. People being evacuated from riversides. All indications it will be a bad one, is what they say. I mean, yeah, people have got to take the precautions. Signal 2 conditions likely. Signal 3 possible. All right, let's see the next question here. What is the meaning of the eyewall of the typhoon? Basically, is the premise of that question, Devon. Would you like to explain?
Where is the eyewall?
What exactly is it? How is it different from the rest of the storm?
Oh, well, the eyewall is... Well, the eyewall is... I'm going to use a more fancy term because I think this term's a lot easier to understand. It's the radius of maximum winds. What that basically means is that the eyewall is where the maximum winds of the storm is. So when we talk about a storm's intensity, we're talking about what is the maximum sustained winds. The eyewall is going to contain the maximum possible sustained winds, or the distance from the center of the storm where the maximum winds are, radius of maximum winds. So the eyewall is just simply going to be the point in the storm where the winds are strongest.
Also, on our server, I've encouraged people to send in images so that we can show stuff on the stream, Devon. Here is one very important image, the latest warning map for the Philippines. So a graphical depiction of where all of them warnings are. Signal 1 warnings extending halfway up to central northern Luzon now, and you can see where the Signal 3 warnings are currently in effect. So northern parts of Samar as an island, large parts of southern Luzon, eastern Mindoro, and lots of those islands in between, Masbate, Romblon, Marinduque, and Boreas Island, which could get a landfall, extending up to Quezon and southern Batangas, Signal 3. And that's about right, but we still really need those Signal 4 warnings for Sorsogon and Albay in particular.
Definitely, there definitely should have been a Signal 4 warning for Sorsogon in northern Samar.
And northern Samar.
Yeah, definitely, because the eyewall is scraping right across the top of the island, so there should have been a Signal 4 there.
And just to confirm with you what we knew before, it is 220 kilometers per hour, Signal 5. Well, 150 miles an hour is 240 kilometers per hour, so what do you think it is now?
Not 150 miles an hour, that's for sure. Probably not even 130 at this point.
Really?
I mean, it's losing its eye almost entirely. Not looking very good at all.
I think we're overdue a graphics change then. But yeah, well, that is potentially good news then, that the storm is certainly starting to weaken. I think that's beyond doubt. But it does still remain very powerful, and people let their guard down when they hear the word weakening, which is one of the most annoying things as a forecaster, because this thing is still going to deliver up to 500 millimeters of rain, and that could be a massive flooding event in some places.
Yeah, landslides obviously will be a significant issue. Landslides are always a significant issue with these storms. Any type of flooding is going to be significant issues. Flash flooding, definitely. If you're in a flood-prone area, well, it's definitely too late to get out of it if you're in the landfall area now. But if you're in a flood-prone area and you're still able to evacuate, make sure you're out of the flood-prone area. Right now, if I was on Marinduque or in the eastern part of Mindoro, I would want to make sure that I'm taking the appropriate precautions right now. Just take a precaution if this storm were to re-intensify in the straits between Boreas Island and Marinduque and Mindoro. Definitely prepare myself for potential re-intensification of the storm if it were to do so. It's not clear whether the storm will do that or not at this point in time, but it's something that does have some historical precedence. So keep that in mind.
I've just been told by someone that the radar most likely does have a delay on it, so the timestamps are incorrect on that. I think it's safe to assume at this point that the storm has made landfall, Devon.
I think it is as well.
So the landfall of the storm occurring at approximately about 1:15 or a little bit earlier than that. Not very long ago. Sometime between... what time is it over there now? Sometime between 10 p.m. and 10:15 is probably when the landfall of this storm occurred in Sorsogon province. And then it will move on towards Boreas Island, where it will make another landfall by the looks of things at this point. So that means we're going to finish up our stream in about 20 minutes time. It also means that we'll be providing more updates on the Force 13 YouTube channel and on Facebook and Twitter overnight tonight as well. So make sure you keep up with everything that we're posting too. I think we'll have another update straight away the following hour after we finish tonight at 11. So that means we'll have a video update out on all of our social platforms at midnight for anyone who's staying up late. And then we'll probably run regular updates through the morning hours and maybe another live stream in the morning as well, Devon, yeah?
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
So in the next 20 minutes before we finish up, send in any questions that you've got. Great chance to do so right now. We believe the storm has made landfall with winds probably not 150 miles an hour. That's what it was earlier, but probably 130 miles per hour. Devon might think it's a little bit lower than that. That's obviously going to be subject to post-analysis when we've finished with all of this. But certainly we'll be seeing gusts of 150 miles per hour. That's 240 kilometers per hour, and we're probably getting sustained winds of about at least 200 kilometers per hour with those higher gusts. So I think we'll have a few questions then. Let's see what we've got at this point. Will the storm intensify more, or will it just maintain its current strength? I mean, my best guess is that it will probably weaken a little bit, Devon, then it might hold for a little bit and then weaken some more.
And that right now it's obviously going to weaken as it moves over Luzon, and it will continue to weaken as the core moves over Luzon. So for right now, it will be weakening. Once it ends up moving past Boreas Island and into the straits there, it's kind of uncertain what the storm will do. We'll have to play that one by ear. I would say currently the storm will likely maintain its intensity through there. And then you will have a close passage likely of Marinduque and then a likely landfall on Mindoro. And once that ends up happening, it'll obviously go on the other side of Mindoro, and then it'll be in the South China Sea.
New forecast graphic from the JTWC has just come out. This is for 3 p.m. UTC, which is pretty much now, although they use 3-hour-old data on all of their forecasts. They still do that. There is the latest position, so that was 3 hours ago. They have the position still quite away from land. Obviously, it's moved in since then. They expect now the storm will probably make landfall on Burias Island with winds of Category 3, and then another Category 3 landfall on the southern tip of Quezon by the looks of things there. If it hits Mindoro, and they're really putting it down as a big if there because the track line is right along the coast, that will probably also be at Category 3, coming down to Category 2 as it passes closest to Manila, and then out into the South China Sea, more gradual weakening, and then it really takes a massive dip towards the southwest. People have been asking whether it will affect any other land areas. Probably not, but well, if it survives a little bit longer than expected, it could even reach Borneo.
Well, yeah, but it's turning very close to the equator. As far as affecting other landmasses, obviously China, Vietnam, and Malaysia, Indonesia have to worry about rip currents.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't see any significant effects happening from the storm.
No, I didn't mean that either when I was speaking about Borneo. I'm just talking more about maybe a slight rainfall enhancement.
Yeah. If the storm even is anything by that point, because once the storm gets sheared, the convection's all gone and it's not even producing any rain. So the moisture is likely not going to get that far south, and it's probably just going to get caught up with the IETCZ there then.
Latest ramp imagery is up to 2:20 p.m. UTC, and I think we can substantiate a landfall on that imagery now as well.
Definitely.
So to reiterate,
looks terrible.
It does look terrible. To reiterate the facts, then, the landfall occurred probably at about 10:15, maybe slightly earlier, probably near Prieto Diaz, which is far east in Sorsogon along the coast there, not far from Sorsogon City, and the wind speed at landfall was probably around 190-200 kilometers. No, more than that, isn't it? Probably about 220 kilometers per hour. The risk still remains, though. The fact that it has made landfall does not take away from all of the other warnings that are in effect in the Philippines. Signal 3 all the way up to Batangas, and they could get typhoon conditions. In fact, I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't. If the storm does deviate towards the north, which is still inconclusive as of yet, the Manila region could still be struck with typhoon conditions, although the chances of that are starting to fade a little bit, considering that the storm is already starting to weaken. Thankfully, this storm did not intensify as much as it really could have, to be honest, Devon. We could have been looking at Hagapit Mark II and it did it properly. But no, we're looking at Category 4 landfall and hopefully some weakening to Category 3 imminently, if it hasn't already happened so far. Alright, more questions. Is there any other major cities that may experience typhoon force winds if the storm deviates? As far as I know, not really. I think we're really struggling with Devon's audio now for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on there.
It's cutting in and out with me.
Well, we are finishing up in about 12 minutes, Devon. If you want to get off, that's up to you.
It's just that the audio's cutting in and out, so sometimes
I've no idea what's going on with that.
Am I cutting out now?
You were a little bit. I think we're back now.
Okay, so yeah. I get it cutting in and out. I really do apologize about the audio difficulties here.
Yeah, there have been a few today, but again, we're looking at this latest rapid scan imagery. Again, you can see the center of the eye, which has moved over that little tip there of Luzon and still traveling westwards. Start your message with Force 13. all in text. It will tag us big and bright. And make sure to follow us on social media, also here on YouTube. And on Facebook and Twitter, we'll be producing more updates throughout the night tonight. We're finishing at 11, which is in just 10 minutes' time, and we'll have a recorded update with the latest information, status update, at midnight Philippine time for anyone who's sticking around. And we'll probably have more updates throughout the morning, 3 a.m. maybe, definitely at 6 a.m. and possibly later on as well. Maybe a live event. We don't really know what our schedule is just yet. Will it have gradual weakening or substantial weakening, Devon?
Gradual, more than likely. I can't see this storm, especially this
size.
Random. It's not just going to fall apart. It's not going to drop 2 categories in a couple of hours.
Will this storm affect the Southeast Asian Games significantly? I've heard a lot about this, but I don't actually know much about it, and I don't think Devon's much the wiser either. But all we can say really is that if there's anything going on in Luzon or in the northern Visayas region, I think everything should be cancelled.
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, anything that is going on here in the Philippines, unless it's on Mindanao, I would probably say it should be canceled. I would probably also say that Palawan Island shouldn't get too significantly affected from this either, but about anything.
I think they've got signal 1.
Yeah, the very northern tip of it, but the other part of the island, like the southern half of the island, shouldn't really get anything either. But basically, the rest of the Philippines should be fine.
All right. We'll stay on for the well, if it happens quickly, we'll stay on for that next update from the Philippines. Now, it'll feel a bit odd if they release the 11 p.m. update. It's made landfall and they up it to signal 4 warnings. It'll be too little too late by then. But I have a feeling they might just do that.
Definitely. Well, we'll have to see what ends up happening.
Yep, that's if indeed we ever get through to Pagasa, and the website might be crashing again. But we'll see where we get with that. But, you know, I don't think there's much that can be said really. We think it should be signal 4 warnings for those landfall areas. I don't think the warning zones will be extended very much at all on any category. Maybe signal 3 might be extended a bit further west. But apart from that, I don't think there's going to be much change at 11 p.m.
That is pretty much consistent with what we have here. I don't see why they would end up changing the warnings, at least at this point in time, unless they want to like put in signal 4 warnings for Berrios Island. But I don't think it'll have that intensity by the time it gets there. But JTWC says Category 3 by then, and Signal 4 is Cat 2, you said, right?
Midway through Category 2, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe Signal 4 warnings would be warranted there for Berrios Island, Albay, and probably still Sorsogon as well, although the utility of a Signal 4 warning at this point in time is probably not too significant for areas that are already receiving a landfall.
Totally. This is an image not so long ago of the storm pretty much at landfall there. You can see quite clearly in the center of the eye. Wow.
Yep.
So that's where we're at right now. Typhoon Kammuri has made landfall. Local name Tisoy. Happened around 30 minutes ago, a little bit more than that, and is still at least a Category 3, probably Category 4 still. And Signal 3 warnings extend all the way to Batangas City. Signal 2 warnings in the Manila region and all the large cities around it as well. And they could be upgraded to Signal 3 if the storm takes a northward deviation. But still no signs of that northward deviation just yet. So at the moment, we're still looking at signal 2 conditions. Let's see if there's any other questions we can take for the next few minutes. Could the storm have made landfall with 155-mile-an-hour winds? No.
No. No, that's a resounding no. I think it was lucky to maintain Cat 4 all the way to landfall.
True.
Taking a look at it.
True indeed. More questions that are coming in, but might be better to tag us whilst doing it, because otherwise I might miss it quite easily. There was a oh yeah, did it already make landfall over Sorsogon? Yes, we're pretty sure it has.
The eye is over Sorsogon right now.
Any chance that it will recurve to Palawan? No.
No.
If anything, it'll be the other way.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to curve towards Palawan, just the very northern tip of Palawan underneath Signal 1 warnings. And yeah, that's about it.
Alright, well, we'll just be here for another few minutes here and just see if there's any update that comes out, but we're not expecting a huge amount of change, only possibly Signal 4, but we already knew that should really be the case already. And I don't think there's much else to say at this juncture. So we'll be producing, as said, as we keep saying, more updates throughout the night tonight. We'll be producing a update on the storm at midnight UTC. It will be out on the Force 13 YouTube channel and on Facebook, on our Facebook page there. Search Force 13 all in text for those. And we'll have regular updates as we get into the morning hours as well. For the time being, though, I think we've said everything we can say, Devon. It's been great to have you along here to watch this, another big landfall event. And we've been doing Philippine typhoon coverage for some years together now.
Yep.
There's not been that many typhoons that have made landfall there recently, thankfully, but we are always here when they do.
Absolutely, yeah. So it really hasn't been too active of a season for the Philippines. It's been really active for Japan, unfortunately. Usually when one area doesn't get affected, that usually means another area has gotten affected significantly, and this has been an awful typhoon season for Japan. But definitely a bit on the light side for typhoons in the Philippines this season. I'd say this more than makes up for it, though.
Yeah, 2 bad seasons for Japan, really, isn't it?
Yeah, last year wasn't too pretty either.
And this, on our analysis, is the 7th super typhoon of 2019. Devon, what do you think of that?
7th?
Yeah. Believe it or not.
That's about right. That's about right. Is that and that's just being the West Pacific?
Yeah, including this storm.
Okay. So, yeah, that's about right.
Well, that's it from us for now. We'll be back again, probably with more live coverage in the morning Philippine time. For now, we're signing off. We'll be, again, with an update in just over an hour on the Force 13 channel. Don't miss it. That'll have the latest update with the latest storm intensity. We'll be back again at some other time. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. This storm does mean business.